Hey VC, it's Jonathan, your cheap and cheerful record collector. I'm going to do the 2019 record vinyl tag today. I know I did a video just the other day, and I'll probably do another one later because I went to do shopping the other day in Massachusetts and bought a whole bunch of great records I want to show. But today we're doing the tag. So let's get on it. Got 20 questions to go through the vinyl tag. So the first thing was your best find in 2019. I don't know my best find, but one of the ones I've been looking for a long time, and I was happy to find the Beano album, and it's a British UK pressing. It's a repressed, probably from 1980 is what they can figure out when I looked on Discogs. But real happy to have a really nice clean copy of the Beano album. Next question, best 2019 LP. I don't buy a lot of new records or new releases, but I got this one this year, and I was just blown away by how great this is. And it's Kingfish. That's the name of the guy. He's a 20-year-old blues guitar player, and he is just phenomenal. He does everything from acoustic blues to straight up electric blues. Things on Alligator, on Alligator Records, and it's one of my favorite records of the year. Fantastic. Kingfish, record of the year. Novelty records. Don't do a lot of novelty records, but this one I had many, many years ago and used to love this as a kid. And I'm glad I finally found another copy. It's Stan Freberg's Presents the United States of America. Basically, it's a comedy tongue-in-cheek look at the history of the United States. So funny. Just great stuff. Stan Freberg did a lot of commercials in the 60s and 70s. But that's Stan Freberg's United States of America. An homage cover. So here's the original, Sonny Rollins, and there's the homage, Joe Jackson. Virtually the same, as you can see, different coloring. So Joe Jackson on his Body and Soul was an homage to the Sonny Rollins Blue Note 1558 Volume 2. The original, the homage. Okay. B-side deep cuts. I don't collect 45s. It's just a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. So Robert Gordon on the with Link Ray, the Fresh Fish special album. He does a fantastic job of Bruce Springsteen's Fire. And it's just one of my favorite songs. Deep cut off Robert Gordon, Fresh Fish Special with Link Ray. Great rockabilly album, by the way. Great rockabilly album. Next one, something funky. So many ways I could have gone with this, but I decided to go this way. This is a Record Store Day pickup last year, I guess it was. And no trouble here. And it is Grant Green, Slick. 2-record set, recorded live. First album is pretty standard. The second side is funky as hell, just freaking drips with funk. And it's a fantastic record. Grant Green, Slick. He's a jazz guitar player, if you don't know. Fantastic record. Really happy with that one. Next, Weird Shelf Buddies. All right, so I have Jimi Hendrix sitting right next to John Hyatt. They're right next to each other on the shelf. That's about the best I come up with that one. Concert I've been to, or band you saw live. I was actually at this concert, filmed. This was the recorded the Frank Zappa and the Mothers at the Fillmore East in June 1971. This is the concert that had Flo and Eddie with them when they were singing from the Turtles. And quick story, I go to the show. Great concert. They used to have 2 shows at the Fillmore. They had like an 8 o'clock and a 10 o'clock show. And I actually had a job. So I had to go to work the next day. I was 22. So I went to the show, and it was great. And as I'm leaving, I saw a friend of mine who's coming in, and he said, "How was the show?" I said, "Oh, it's great. You're going to love it. You're going to love it." He calls me the next day. He says, "Guess who came in and sat in for the late show, but not the early show? John and Yoko." So I miss seeing John and Yoko by going to the early show instead of the late show. But that's the concert. The Mothers at the Fillmore East, 1971 in June. A record that you have a repress you wish you had an original pressing of. Well, without a doubt, it's John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. This is a nice reissue. Plays fine. It's all great and everything, but boy, love to have a original of this one. John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. Artists you own the most records of. Well, surprisingly, the artist I own more records of than any other artist is Frank Sinatra. I don't have a complete catalog because he released so much stuff. And I don't have a complete discography of almost any artist. My taste is too varied. And I just keep jumping around. So Frank Sinatra is probably the one I have the most of. So I thought I'd show some Frank albums. Here's a nice 10-inch original Swing Easy with Frank, which I picked up. Really cool, little 10-inch Frank. I thought I'd show ones that everybody doesn't see all the time. So this is Frank Sinatra Sings a Select Cole Porter Songbook. Is Frank Point of No Return. Great album. But you don't see that all around a lot. Is another Frank. This is Tell Her You Love Her, Frank Sinatra. Come Swing With Me. My Kind of Broadway. And the last one I'm going to show is one that's really, it's not Frank so much as, I mean, he's on it, but he doesn't sing. This is Frank Sinatra Conducts the Tone Poems of Color. This is when he decided he was going to be an orchestra leader. He was begging them for years to let him do this. And finally they relented, and Capitol let him be the band leader, as you see him up there in the corner. Not a great album, but sort of a fun thing to have in your collection. All right, so that's that. A unique center label. This was sort of, I wasn't sure where I was going to go on this one. But this one I like a lot. I like the album a lot. And the label is not super, I mean, outrageous or anything, but it's sort of fun because it's different. And it's the Rolling Stones, Blue and Lonesome. Great label, sort of fun. So that's the label I chose for that one. Excuse me, I'll put this back in the sleeve. I won't leave this out. There we go. Put it back in the sleeve later. All right, the next one is an artist that was a pre-band. So an artist that before they became big was in another band and then later on became big. And the one I have is, the band was Blue Angel, and the woman in the middle is there, you can see, is Cyndi Lauper. This is Cyndi before she went on her own, and she had this one album from the band called Blue Angel. 1980. So it was like a year or two before she hit it big. So that was sort of cool. Cyndi. Love Cyndi. Pre-band, musical books. I got two books I'm going to show. First one I love because I was there, and it is the Fillmore East, Live at the Fillmore East, a photographic memoir with a foreword by Mickey Hart. And besides having great photos of all the shows that were going on there, they also have, just you see the Who. Also, in the back of the book, they have a complete chronology of all the shows at the Fillmore East, who played, etc. So I was able to look up shows I went to that, if you're looking for a show from 1968, you sort of forget who was there, who you saw. You saw the band, you weren't sure who you saw them with. So by looking this up, I was able to tell that I went in June of '68 and saw the Jeff Beck Band with Rod Stewart, and they opened up for the Grateful Dead. I remember that show when we were wondering, who is this guy prancing around the stage, singer, who acted like Mick Jagger? It was Rod Stewart, before we even knew who Rod Stewart was. And then 2 weeks later, we went back and we saw in July, H.P. Lovecraft, and they opened up for Jefferson Airplane, etc., etc. So it's sort of fun to look back on and see who played what. They put together some great groups of people to play together. Bill Graham. So anyway, that's one of my books. The other book I have, which I really love, is called, wait, it's a big one, Rock Scene by Bob Gruen. And a little picture of Tina Turner on the back. And it's just a beautiful photo book of, here's Salvador Dali and Alice Cooper. Iggy. Clash. So a beautiful book, really great photo book. And Bob Gruen with an introduction by Debbie Harry. So that's sort of cool. All right, after that we have Underrated Record. All right, this is an artist not underrated, but this particular record by him I think is really, truly underrated, not given the credit it needs, and that is Elvis Costello, Blue, Almost Blue, where he covers mostly country songs, so some Hank Williams stuff, Good Year for the Roses he does, I'm Your Toy, Hopperito #1, just great, great stuff. One of my favorite albums, Elvis Costello, Almost Blue. Greatest Collection. I don't have a complete discography of this band, but it's a band where I think they have no bad albums. Everything they did was fantastic. And I'm a big fan, obviously. So it is Dire Straits. The Communique, Brothers in Arms, the Alchemy Live album, Self-Titled, Making Movies. So I don't think they put out a bad album. They're one of my favorite bands. Mark Knopfler's freaking genius. Love that band. Same record, different cover. Thelonious Monk, Monk in Action. This was recorded at the 5 Spot in New York. This is the original cover on Riverside. And then they re-released it as Monk at the 5 Spot. It's the same first album, this is a double album, and this added more songs to it. So it must have been a second day that they recorded it. So it's this album plus more. But it's the same record. This is the same record. It's on here, but this has more to it. That's Thelonious Monk in Action. Bought cheap, now expensive. Okay. I bought a collection of records, probably 200 or so, about a couple months ago, maybe a year ago. Going through the guy's collection in the garage, all sitting on the ground, they weren't in boxes or anything. There was some decent stuff, and then I saw the Dylan album. I said, oh, that's good. I don't have the album. I'd like to get that. I open it up, and I look inside, and it is an original 6i Columbia. Not many of these out there. It's not in great shape. It's not bad, but it's not as clean as I like. But to have an original 6i Bob Dylan, if this was in mint condition, this would be a $500 album. The way it is, it's probably a $50, $60 album. Not worth that much, but when you pay $1 for it. And I was so happy to have it in my collection, to have an original first pressing of this. If it was mono, it would be even better, but take what you can get. All right. Keep dropping everything here. Sorry about that. Favorite drummer. Well, I was going to go with one particular drummer, but Mazzy beat me to it. So I decided to go a completely different way. Not the greatest drummer in the world, but my favorite, loving for his singing as well, is Levon Helm from the band. And this is his album, the RCO All-Stars. A great album. Also, pretty unknown record. A lot of his solo stuff after the band is not that well known, but this is a great album. Definitely, I suggest you check out Levon Helm's solo stuff after he left the band. Put out some beautiful stuff. Of course, the stuff with the band was great too. But always been a big Levon fan. And I'm going with him as my favorite drummer. An album turning 20 years old. When this was put out 20 years ago, it was not released in vinyl. It was only released in on a CD or cassette, I guess. And they just released it for the first time on vinyl last year, so I was happy to go grab a copy. And it's Steve Earle's Transcendental Blues. Fantastic record. Just everything he does is great. They put it as a 2-record set, 3 sides. So one side is completely blank. But great album, Transcendental Blues, Steve Earle. And the last question is a great trio of records. So an artist that had 3 records in a row that were just fantastic. So I'm going with the great Linda Ronstadt. Just Like a Wheel from 74. Prisoner in Disguise, 75. And Hasten Down the Wind, 76. Not a bad song on all 3 of these albums. Everything from You're No Good, Faithless Love, When Will I Be Loved, Willin', which is fantastic. On the next album, she has Love is a Rose, Tracks of My Tears, Heat Wave, Prisoner in Disguise, Many Rivers to Cross. Last album has The Tattler, That'll Be the Day, Hasten Down the Wind, Rivers of Babylon, Crazy, Down So Long. I mean, there's not a bad song on all 3 of these albums. So I'm picking those 3 as my 3 in a row. Okay? So that's my vinyl tag for this year. If you have not made a video yet, do it. If you're someone who's never made a video at all and just likes to watch, this is the time to jump in there and do your first video. Do the vinyl tag. It's a great way to get you started. If you didn't think about doing a video but not sure what to do, what topic to do, this is a great way to get yourself started, get your feet wet, as it were. I want to thank everybody who's taking the time to watch my little videos. And I hope everybody has a great year. And until next time, peace.